So we're back ready for our next treat, and that is traditional Christmas cutout cookies. Now, as I explained earlier, the cutout molds for these are very rare to find today. These are really actually from the 1950s. You might be able to get these on eBay, but it's a rare find. And when you're baking cookies with these, when you're using them to cut out the molds, there's something special about making them, knowing that you're using something from like the old school, right? So we have a couple of them going here, different styles, more than a couple actually, different styles, different shapes and sizes. So it's really a thrill and a privilege working with these, old school traditional molds. Um, Wanted to go over a few ingredients before we get started. Again, this can be tailored to your preference. Some people like sweeter cookies. Some people like, to maximize the advantage of the fruit that's going to go into it, that sort of taste. But whatever your preference is, there's something for everybody here. So in addition to the flour and the milk and the usual components that go in, we're going to be adding some chopped walnuts. Now I'm going to be dicing these up really fine to get them into the molds, the cookies. So that's going to be great. In addition to that, I'm going to be putting in some pitted dates. Now these have got to be the sweetest piece of fruit, I guess it's a fruit category, that you could possibly find. These are totally sweet. Forget the sugar. All you need are dates in there, and that'll do the trick. So we're going to be using those too, chopped up, of course. In addition, wanted to go over a couple of things. Some people prefer using baking powder in their cookies. Good and bad. I mean, if you wanted your cookies to raise, to rise a little bit, that's a good ingredient. However, for our purposes, I like our cookies to be flat, so I'm going to discard the baking powder for now. A couple of other things that I'm going to be putting in that are kind of non-traditional, but they do the trick, is a tad pinch of orange juice. This will work really well with the dates and the walnuts. It comes out great. Just a pinch. Also, pure vanilla extract is really a key ingredient. Again, very, very strong, very potent stuff. All you need is a little bit, and it really works well. So in addition to that, the usual components, a little bit of cinnamon, salt, flour, a couple of eggs, and milk, of course. And when I mix this stuff all together, it's really a rough cut mixture. There's no, finesse involved. It's really using your hands and working in it and getting the right consistency, and then laying it out, rolling it out, and then making your cutouts. So my walnuts go into my little chopper here, and it's really a nice tool, very simple, does the job. You got to be careful how much chopping you want to do here. Do you want to leave big chunks? Do you want to leave really fine grain chunks? Again, we're talking traditional, so I like to go with a little bit of more of a chunkiness to it, if that's a word. So let's get to it. All right, check it out. Check out the consistency. And I want a little bit more on that. All right, there you go. Okay, it's a good consistency, just what I wanted. So we'll leave that to the side. So with the dates, I actually decided to go the older-fashioned way. Originally, I was going to put these in the grinder as I did the walnuts, but I want my pieces to be a little bit more consistent and kind of like a different gradient. So I'm going to use the knife to cut these. But again, it's totally up to you. If you want to mince these in a blender or a grinder, you could do that. I want to keep, as I said, a little bit more of a consistency with them, and use the old-fashioned way. And basically a couple of slices here and there right along, or you can do it lengthwise, either or. But I'm looking for something like that that's going to basically stand out in the cookie, and you're going to be able to see it, and it's more of a cosmetic thing. Okay, so I've successfully diced my dates up into a good size that I prefer. And of course, as I said, you could mince them even smaller than that. But I want to keep them at this size because it's more of a cosmetic thing. When you look at a cookie with a size of a date like that, you know you're in for a sweet treat, right? So now I'm going to add my dates to my chopped walnut mixture. And you notice I have my orange cuffs showing. You know, when I was a kid, my sister said that orange was my worst favorite color. Now I love the color. I don't know why. Okay, so now that I have my date and walnut mixture, I'm just going to mix that around very roughly. No big deal. Just to get it a little bit stirred up. Okay. And now for my dry ingredients, I'm going to go with my cinnamon again. Just a pinch. Half a teaspoon will do. And my salt. A little bit less on this. A quarter a teaspoon will do on that. Sometimes you have to shake this because, again, this does not have a caking agent in it. An anti-caking agent, I should say. All right. Mix that together. And again, if you have any kids in the house, they would love to do this, right? All right. Dry ingredients are set. But we can't forget about the main ingredient, right? The flour. Now, you may notice there's so many different types of flour out there, right? This one, I'm going to use gold medal. I think it's a standard. It's an unbleached. Always use, by the way, unbleached flour. You don't want to use bleached flour. It completely, it's like putting junk into your body. Unbleached flour is the way to go. Also, you could use flour like pastry flour, as I explained earlier, Italian focaccia bread flour, OOO. There's a variety of flours that are out there that you can try, you can experiment with. I promise you, they all taste different. So for now, we're going to go with the basic all-purpose unbleached flour. Now, as far as the quantity, I usually go about 3 to 4 cups, actually. But right now, I'm just putting it in just to get some kind of consistency. Again, depending on the quantity of output you want to make, how many cookies. I usually turn out about a couple of dozen. So as you see, it's basically mixing around, totally dry, of course. But I'll add a bit more in a second. All right, I think it's safe to say that now my dry ingredients are set. Okay, so I'm ready for my wet ingredient mixture. What I like to do is just do it off the cuff, play it by ear, so to speak. Again, the consistency, totally what you like, totally what you prefer. I always like to do it by eye. When it comes to the liquid stuff, I never use measurements. It's always feel. So we'll start off with milk. Again, I'm using 1% milk here. Again, you could use whole milk if you want. I would not recommend fat-free skim milk. There's something about the fatness in a milk that helps the cookie taste better. So I'm going to go with 1%. You could go with whole milk, as I said, or 2%. And again, I may add a little bit more later, or I may subtract some. It's all about feel. Okay, and my ingredient that I told you about, orange juice. This really makes a difference. That's it. About 3/4 of a cup. Stir that around a bit. Okay. I like to use 2 eggs in the mixture. It happens. Just make sure you get the shell out. Okay. I'm going to mix this a little bit better. This is just to break up the egg. So I'm ready for my final wet ingredient, and that is the pure vanilla extract. And I'm just going to go with a 1/4 teaspoon of that. Very powerful. Yep. Give that a little stir. And we're set. Okay, so now we are ready to blend the wet with the dry. As I explained earlier, I may need to add some wet. I need to extract some. It's just totally by feel. And you do it kind of gradually, just to get the consistency going. You don't want a soupy mixture. You want it to be workable. Oh, it's looking good. When you trust your instincts, things usually work out well. As you can see, the consistency is nice, and it's going to get a little thicker. So I just received a phone call from a friend, good friend of mine. She was craving my old-fashioned walnut clusters. So I feel kind of bad because I'm right in the middle of making my cutouts. So it's Christmas Eve, and she would like to have some cookies for tomorrow. She's hosting some folks. So I decided to yield to her desires, and I will be altering my recipe. Instead of making the cutouts, I am going to fortunately use the same recipe to make Grandma's old-fashioned walnut date clusters. So here we go. Here's a pan, and it's been used so many times. And if you have a pan that's been used so many times, you really don't need to grease it because it has been actually greased through the processes of it being used. So if it was a new pan, I would say, yeah, you could put some vegetable shortening on it. But I don't even have to grease this pan. I'm just going to leave it as is. Should be fine. Okay, so here's a messy part. Now you're going to make these clusters. It's a little gooey with your fingers, but it's the way that if you want to make it just right, that's how you do it. So basically in small little cluster balls like that. And you can still see those date pieces, right? And again, you can make these as big as you like. I tend to want to make them maybe a golf ball size, since I play golf myself. And I'll continue on. Okay, so I was able to turn out a good number of these on 2 trays, and these guys are ready to go into the oven. As opposed to the pie, which was at an over 400 degree oven, this is going to be a little bit lower. The temperature here is probably going to be closer to 350, 375, and that should take about a half an hour. What you want to do is check them from time to time by putting a toothpick into them, taking the toothpick out, and seeing if there's moisture in there. You don't want moisture. When it's dry, that means it's done. So there you have it. Grandma's old-fashioned apple pie and traditional walnut date clusters. Hope you like them. See you in the kitchen.